The present government has, within 2 years, borrowed more money than the administration of President Umaru Yar'Adua, President Goodluck Jonathan, and President Muhammadu Buhari combined. Today, Nigerian public debt is estimated close to 188 trillion. Nigerians were informed that the debt and the borrowings was to fund critical areas of development.
Where you call them characters.
Yes.
It's where you call them characters to me. But let's go straight to what the opposition members are saying. I know you have to run along, so
Yes,
let
please.
me quickly let you jumping on what other opposition parties are saying.
Yeah.
I may not have time to play their videos or reactions. That I will do once you leave. But let me quickly, pick your mind on what Atiku Abubakar said. The former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has described the administration of President Bola Tinubu as the lowest point of Nigeria's democratic history, saying at the bottom. If you get any part where you be seen at the steepest, the lowest part of our democracy, saying that under Tinubu rule, neither one don't happen. Now, in his Democracy Day message today, Thursday, Atiku stated that Nigerians are not experiencing true governance, but rather a form of domination. Now, former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration in 2018 officially declared June 12 Nigerians, Democratic Day. Atiku, the 2023 presidential flag bearer of the PDP, emphasized that the achievements of June 12 were the result of a great struggle. He lamented that the democratic progress, which began in 1999, now gradually being undone. Atiku stated in his words, 32 years ago, Nigeria stood on the cusp of greatness. The winds of democratic change were sweeping through Africa, and all eyes turned to our nation with hope. Hope that Nigeria would rise as a beacon of liberty, justice, and self-determination. I was privileged to be an active participant in that defining chapter, which culminated in a historic election that captured the imagination of the world and reshaped the political destiny. It was the moment of a great promise and great sacrifice. But they say right now, say what President Bola Tinubu they do now, say now the opposite of that now they do now. Say it be like say the gains of June 12 were hard won, but sadly the democratic promise that blossomed in 1999 is being steadily dismantled before our eyes. Worse for inside President Bola Tinubu administration. I'm not going to read and finish again because of the one.
Well, when politicians speak, you do have to take it with a pinch of salt. You wouldn't expect Atiku to say anything different. His opposition is, according to INEC, is Tinubu's biggest opponent. According to INEC, according to INEC, is Tinubu's major opponent.
It's the way you give me facts. I like the way you give me.
Sorry. I can't help it because I can't be saying things that I don't believe now. But I also know that I have to be a bit decorous about this thing. So I'm not going to say anything directly. But I will slide it in. So anybody that understands what I'm saying, they should understand. If they don't understand, so according to INEC, Atiku is the president's biggest opponent. So I won't expect him to say much else. But is there truth in what he said? Yes. Is that not exactly what I said at the beginning of this conversation? Like, are we really in a democracy? I don't think so. And I think that if you think deeply about what is happening in Nigeria today, you discover that it's just that it's not, we never carry gun. We never see soldiers when they carry gun, they walk up on road. That's why we are not realizing that we are in a dictatorship. Look, what is a dictatorship? If you have a leader that does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants, without any check, without any balance, without any restraint, nobody can call him to order, nobody can stop him. Excuse me, that's a dictator now. So the judiciary have had more than one opportunity, several opportunities to stand against this administration and put them right. They have failed, they have refused. The legislature, those ones are gone, captured, completely captured, right? You have an executive president that is wielding power at will. Look, let me tell you, Precious, let's mark this. We are waiting for the Supreme Court's judgment on what happened in River State.
But
PDP,
they never sit down on that.
I know, but they must now, unless they want to strike out.
But why did they delay him? Why should that case even be delayed?
That's part of the reason. Look, somebody was suspended for 6 months. People say this 6-month suspension is undemocratic, it's unconstitutional, and therefore null and void. Oga Supreme Court, since you are the one that interprets our constitution on our behalf, in matters between state and federal government, please interpret this matter. Did the president have the power to remove one of us from office, in the manner he did? 6 months. The 6 months. When did that happen? Was it not March? When was that?
March.
Was it not March?
March 18th,
so 3 months out of those 6 months, you don't go. Remaining 3.
I make I just blow your mind, because one of the governors withdrew the case, the Delta State, saying I don't join.
Yeah. He said he's not interested. Yes, they will step out of it. Yeah, sure. But that's okay. For me, my problem is the Supreme Court itself. This type of matter is supposed to get expeditious attention, accelerated hearing. There is no reason in the world why that matter shouldn't have been determined by now. In normal countries, in a place like the United States, within a week, you'll get a judgment, because the matter there's a time, it's a time-based thing. There's a fluctuation of time. There's the passage of time. Every single day that you don't resolve that matter is another day that injustice is sustained. So where's the Supreme Court on that? So if you have a country where the Supreme Court, so I'm saying that the judgment of the Supreme Court on that matter is what will determine, for me personally, whether we are in a full-blown dictatorship or there's still some hope that we might have some sort of democracy, is the judgment of that Supreme Court, because that action must be reversed. If it is not reversed, we're in a full-blown dictatorship. It means that anything that President Bola Tinubu decides to do, they can interpret the Constitution in whichever manner. Regardless of the black and white provisions of the Constitution, they can just say, no, this is what the Constitution meant, and that will be the end of it. The Constitution will become a piece of toilet paper if the Supreme Court allows this thing to go on. So we wait. Do we still have a democracy? Is it as bad as Atiku is saying? The Supreme Court's judgment is what is going to finally determine that for us. That's when we'll know where we are, whether we don't enter Rwanda level or we still there. It's the dictatorship in Rwanda now. Kagame is not even pretending about it anymore, right? So let's see how it goes. If the Supreme Court holds this up, then Precious, please don't be surprised that we may very well have a life president on our hands. If the Supreme Court...
Remember, the Attorney General also said it, that the president has the right to do all these things, that is constitutional. So if the Attorney
I know, that's what we're saying.
A lawyer and the number one person will be Minister for Justice, if he talks to the president, get right, what do you expect the Supreme Court to say?
Every single dictator has lawyers sitting right by them, helping them to tear the law to pieces, helping them to project a faulty interpretation of the law, to give some sort of semblance of legitimacy to their actions. So there is no surprise. The Attorney General is doing his job. He's earning his salary. I wouldn't have look, which politician do you think is going to say, oh God, no, you can't do this? So he's the person that appointed him. If he wants to do that, he must resign. And even after you resign, say, who knows? So I think all I'm saying is that Atiku is right.
So you said something earlier that if the Supreme Court, passes this, then that means we may have a lifetime presidency in our hands. I'd like to know why you said that.
Yes, so why I said that is, for every fair-minded person, including lawyers, including those that come on air to support that action, they know in their conscience that action was unconstitutional. The Constitution is, look, there are some issues where interpretation becomes a bit, you can say, like the issue of and, right? That issue of and. In a matter like that, you can now begin to call lawyers. Yes, because you can look at it from a technical. What did the Constitution mean by and? Is it and as in addition to, or is it and as in part of them? You know, which one, which and then you can debate. In my mind, it's clear, but in another mind, it's not clear. Therefore, there's provision for misinterpretation. In this one, the constitution is absolutely clear. It's explicit. The methods and manners by which a governor can be removed, can be impeached, or can leave office is clear, explicit. And a suspension by a president wielding state of emergency is not one of them. Also, the provision, the conditions for which state of emergency, the conditions that must be met before a state of emergency can be declared, have clearly not been met. Are we living two realities? There is no violence in Rivers State to the extent where you say beyond what normally happens in other parts of the country. In fact, Borno, Adamawa, Plateau State, Benue State, Zamfara State, those places are on fire. These people are dying in droves every day. 150, sometimes 50, 80. In the last 2 months or 3 months, we must have lost not less than 1,000 people in those states. Those places are in crisis. What's going on in Rivers State that required a state of emergency declaration? So I say, therefore, if the Supreme Court should dare affirm that action, it will mean, you know what it will mean, Precious? It will mean that the president will say, can come and say, well, yes, the Constitution says that a president can only run 2 terms, but that Constitution, what it actually meant is that the 2 terms must have started on a particular date and finish on another date, and that doesn't apply to me. And that would be, he can say any nonsense to invalidate that clear provision of the Constitution, and nothing will happen. So, in other words, I'm saying he won't even need to pretend to go and start do constitutional amendments. You know what normal all system dictators do in other parts of Africa is that they amend the Constitution. They amend it 30 times if they need, and they stay in power. That's how Paul Biya has remained in Cameroon as long as he has. That's what the Zimbabwe guy, before he finally left, you know, that's what he was doing. So he won't even need to do that. He won't need to pretend to go and start amending the Constitution the way Obasanjo tried to do. Obasanjo tried to do a third term by trying to amend Constitution. The National Assembly stopped him. This National Assembly will not stop this guy. That one we already know. They will do voice vote and they will affirm whatever he says. So it is only the Supreme Court that will be able to stop him. If the Supreme Court does not stop him on this one, they will not stop him on that one. And therefore, wherever we find ourselves now, we did.
So just before you leave, could you speak to what Peter Obi said? Peter Obi also mentioned about the democracy. He is saying that democracy has been on recession since Tinubu's rule. In talk say democracy don't die under Tinubu. He gets a long speech when he make today. You know, say they say lizard where one person see they become python. So it go good, make a go kukuma play and kuro make you hear him from Peter Obi mouth as in you talk him and waiting in talk concerning democracy. And the saddest thing about this be saying he actually starts by paying respect. Right, make I just go make on a hear and by on a seven.
Good morning. Let me respectfully request a moment of silence for MK Abiola, who sacrificed for our independence and our struggle for democracy and a better country. May his souls and all souls of faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Today, June 12th, is slated as Democracy Day. Most unfortunately, in our present state, our dear country, Nigeria, cannot be justifiably classified as a democratic country. The vital indicators of democracy are noticeably absent. Some do not even exist. Democracy is said to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Yet, none of these 3 measures exist in our democracy today. Rules, regulations, requirements to participate in election or be elected for are not followed. Consequently, people who are not qualified and ought to be ab initio be disqualified are now holding public offices. As we mark June 12, a day symbolizing the struggle for true democracy in Nigeria, it is deeply troubling that under the present administration, in a short span of 2 years, our nation has witnessed a broad erosion of democratic principles. There has been a corresponding decline in security, and the quality of life for millions of Nigerians. We have traversed from rigged elections to collapsing social service, from soaring poverty to rising corruption. It is most troubling that in 2 years in office, the present government has brought our nation to the point where our leaders now celebrate and endorse failure, lies, and propaganda. The government today, rather than show genuine accountability and measurable progress, focuses on manipulating the narratives, gaslighting the public, shifting blame, and weaponizing governance. Meanwhile, Nigerians live in a worsening and worrisome insecurity, widespread corruption, hunger, and general despondence. There are no clear benchmarks for measuring tangible development as we continue to witness the collapse of key indicators like education, healthcare, and poverty alleviation, which are the parameters for measuring national progress. Simple comparison of what has happened in the past 2 years now relies on propaganda and misinformation to mark misgovernance. Our country today can best be described as a nation declining fast in all its facets. The security of lives and property has worsened, and the rule of law is virtually non-existent. These are hard, verifiable facts. On May 29, 2023, when this government was sworn in to office, Nigeria gross domestic product, GDP, was $364 billion. As of today, it has declined to $188 billion, a decline of almost 50%. Nigerian per capita income was $1,640 as at May 2023. Today, it has dropped to about $835, a devastating decline of about 50%. Nigerians living in poverty have increased from 38.9% to 54%. Within this period, 129 million Nigerians now live below poverty line. The World Bank recent report stated that 75% of Nigerians in rural areas now live below poverty, and the situation is even more in urban areas. Our education sector has deteriorated significantly. Today we have 18.3 million children out of school, the highest in the world. The quality of education has deteriorated. Our children are now being taught science without science lab and computer without computers. They are now taking exams in darkness with candles. There's not even glitches in the exams. Health services have worsened drastically. The National Primary Health Care Development Agency declared that less than 20% of over 30,000 primary health care centers across the nation are functional. I've even recently visited some where there are delivery rooms without toilets. The United Nations Agency recently reported Nigeria as the worst country to give birth, with one death recorded every 7 minutes. Nigerian businesses continue to collapse at an alarming rate. Within these 2 years, approximately 7 million micro, small, and medium enterprises shut down, and folded up across the country. Over 80 manufacturing companies have permanently closed their operations. Funding costs of raw materials and energy costs have surged to an incredible level, making these manufacturing companies to close down. Over 15 major multinational companies, including GlaxoSmithKline, Beecham, Diageo, Procter & Gamble, to name a few, have exited due to harsh operating environments. A hunger crisis arising from food insecurity has deepened in these 2 years. Based on the Global Hunger Index reports, Nigeria's hunger situation has taken a hit, as we are now one of the hungriest countries of the world. Millions can no longer afford food due to high cost of food and non-existent disposable income. Our national population is experiencing mental health crisis, as the mental health and stress level within this period have increased drastically. Nigeria is now among the top 3 most stressed countries. 59% of Nigerian population are under daily stress. Mental health experts and advocates have warned that the present situation in Nigeria is having extremely adverse effect on the population, as it contributes to anger, anxiety, and depression levels in the country. The World Health Organization estimates that over 20 million Nigerians are now affected by mental illness. Despite trillions of naira purportedly saved from removal of subsidy, a policy initially justified as a means to combat and curb borrowing, the present government has, within 2 years, borrowed more money than the administration of President Umaru Yar'Adua, President Goodluck Jonathan, and President Muhammadu Buhari combined. Today, Nigerian public debt is estimated close to 188 trillion. Nigerians were informed that the debt and the borrowings was to fund critical areas of development, which are education, health, and pulling people out of poverty. Still, no significant improvement in education, in healthcare, in poverty alleviation, which we all know is the most critical measure of national development. Corruption is at its worst in this administration. Nigeria have now become a crime scene. Now our national budget is routinely inflated and padded without consequences. One of the most glaring manifestations of this is an expensive padding of the 2025 national budget. Budget IT revealed that about 7 trillion was questionably inserted by the National Assembly. These figures suggest a pattern of inflated cost and misappropriation of funds. Power generation rate, which this administration claimed to have increased, is yet another propaganda. The only increase in power are the excessive high tariff being paid by Nigerians. The clear indication of this is instant failure of our national grid and darkness. In 2022, Nigerian electricity tariff for consumers averaged as 64 naira per kilowatt hour. By 2025, there has been a substantial markup in electricity tariff, with Nigerians now paying approximately 225 naira per kilowatt hour to be in darkness. What we have now is more tariff for more darkness. Nigerians should not forget the firm promise of Mr. President while campaigning 22nd of December 2022, and I quote, "If I don't give you constant power in the next 4 years, don't vote for me for second tenure." It has now been 2 years of constant darkness. This is already a midterm for the administration. We look forward to when he will fulfill this his categorical promise. Unemployment remains alarmingly high. Although government has attempted to manipulate the statistics to suit its narrative, the reality is that unemployment is worsening, especially among the Nigerian youths in their productive age. Majority of Nigerian youths are not in education, in employment or training category 8. Multiple reputable organizations, including International Labour Organization and the United Nations Development Programme, have cautioned against reliance on the nation's data as they are inconsistent with the reality on ground. The ILO has noted that Nigerian youth unemployment and underemployment rates remain dangerously high. There are also on the government reporting on unemployment figures without addressing the underlying challenges, as the revised figures do not reflect the hardship in the labor market, which is over 40%. Finally, I respectfully appeal to President Tinubu to emulate late President Umaru Yar'Adua, who had, on assumption of office, was honest enough to admit that the process that brought him into office was wrong and not sufficiently credible, and thus insist on doing what is right to save our democracy. And similarly, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who saved our nascent democracy by accepting defeat even before the election results were announced. We must end this troubling governance era that is filled with impunity, state capture, absolute regard to rule of law, and checks and balances required for worthwhile democracy. Accordingly, this administration must start upholding the rule of law and ensure there is transparency and real progress to the people. The president should stop touring outside Nigeria and use the remaining 2 years to tour the Nigerian state. Mr. President, you have already made over 30 international trips, spending over 150 days outside Nigeria. If you tour Nigerian states an average of 2 days each, it will only be about 72 days, which is half of the time you spent outside on foreign trips. You must then go around Nigeria to see for the first hand what your citizens are going through. It is time to stop governance by remote control. We must endeavor forthwith to end insecurity and resettle all Nigerians living in internally displaced persons camps. It is unacceptable that millions of our fellow citizens remain in the displaced camps in their own home state and fatherland, while the rest of us live in comfort and in some cases opulence. Allow the electoral body in the country to truly be independent. The very agency that is supposed to serve as an independent electoral body for Nigerian elections has lost its neutrality and credibility and now operates as an extension of APC government, thus undermining democracy, eroding public trust, and turning elections into endorsements rather than credible contests. Aggressively tackle economic problems by expanding agricultural and manufacturing productivity through measures that will secure our farmers to go back to farms and reduce production costs for manufacturers in order to boost productivity, employment that will in turn contribute to national growth and generate even more revenue for the government. This is a better approach than attempting to increase tax in an unproductive economy, which will only lead to less growth. This is time to stop propaganda and lies, and let us make Nigeria the democratic country it ought to be. I respectfully call on Nigerians not to give up, but to put all hands on deck. Now it's time to demand accountability, genuine leadership, and a government that prioritizes the welfare, security, democracy of its citizens over empty rhetorics and propaganda. A new Nigeria is possible. God bless Federal Republic of Nigeria.
He also decried or bemoaned the hunger, the corruption, and the impunity under President Bola Tinubu. You know, when we speak about corruption, it'd be like, say, this government never really talk anything about corruption. No.
They're not interested.
Have you heard them treat
interested.
corruption, treat issues about corruption?
Yes. President Tinubu has spoken about corruption, and his own model for fighting corruption is that he should give loans to people. That's his answer to corruption.
That's not what I'm talking. Like talking about.
No,
really,
that's it now. What? He has told you. He said, that is your president, precious. Why you must take his word seriously? The man said the way to fight corruption is to give loan to Nigerians so that when they have loan, they have money to buy things. They will no longer need to steal. May God forgive that man. So the better I do, who is his own minister?
Because till now,
nothing. Now, that woman, if you give her a loan from Credit Corp or Nel Fund or whatever of the other very funny initiatives that they are putting around, will that have stopped Better Edu from chopping billions of naira? So this president does not take us seriously. Corruption, as far as it's concerned, look, with all due respect, I'm so sorry if you're a supporter of Tinubu and you are offended by what I'm saying. But please, corruption cannot fight corruption. Look, a man, let me say this clearly, a man who did not exist, precious, let anybody come and tell me where the man called Bola Tinubu was in 1985. Let them bring a picture or, a record or, something that he was doing in 1985. Let them bring it, make you can see, right? This man literally did not exist beyond a particular time. Is it 1985 or I did the timeline? The man appeared out of nowhere at a particular date. Which school did he go to? Which primary, secondary? What is his date of birth? That itself, there's conflict on documents that he submitted. So How can a man with that type of confusion about his own identity and person fight corruption? You know, when you want to fight corruption, as we saw with Buhari, corruption is going to fight back dirty. You have to be squeaky clean to fight corruption. They have to have nothing on you. So they have to look around them and say, what will we go use fight this guy? The man, President Bola Tinubu, there's too much to use. So he can't fight. He will not even talk about it. He can't talk about corruption. So what he will do is to just give us the
So how do
platitudes
we
and
move
all of
forward?
that. God,
But how do we move
God will
forward if
do it.
corruption is one of the
God will do it.
issues we're
God
fighting?
will do it.
God.
God.
So what's your reaction on Peter Obi's statement about a democracy being on recession since President Bola Tinubu's reign? You know, he's beginning to be a bit more vocal these days in this
Vociferous is
conversation.
beginning to realize that he needs to
Yeah,
talk. Yeah,
yes. So,
I mean, it's basically the same thing that I've been saying all of this interview and what Atiku has said, and the facts are there, the evidence is there. Anybody that supports the president, it's your right to
He
support the
claimed
president. I have
that
no issues with you,
less
but
than
at least
percent
don't lie to yourself.
of over
The
30,000
truth of
Nigerians
the
said
matter, is that as we stand today, democracy has regressed in Nigeria. I don't need any other evidence other than what happened in River State. There's no other evidence. I don't need other evidence. And then if you look at the way defection is happening and listen to what
failure
the people defecting are
of our
saying,
national creed.
you will realize that we don't have a democracy anymore. Democracy is suffering. If you listen to what Pastor Eno, Governor Eno of Cross Rivers, Akwa Ibom
Cross River
State,
State said, yes,
what
yes.
what
So
is said as
Akwa Ibom State, yes.
yes, what is
He said
said.
that not being sure of winning election, is
Yes,
that what you're saying?
yes. If you listen to the undercurrent of what he's saying, you will realize that democracy has suffered a great hit. If you listen to what the Delta State guys are saying, you will realize that democracy is dying, is hemorrhaging. So all the evidence is around us. I don't think anybody, unless you are being dishonest with yourself, I don't think anybody can argue with the fact that the respect for the rule of law and democratic practice is not really a big deal for this president. I don't think anybody can argue that. What they can say is that, look, it doesn't matter, let him just do good. That's why dictators have supporters. You know, if the person is seen to be doing good, some people say, don't worry about it. I beg, who democracy help? If we see light, if I can see light, if we have 30,000 megawatts of electricity by 2027, who democracy help? If between now and 2027, we have a rail line connecting Lagos to Onitsha, and excuse me, it's possible, though. It's possible. 2 years, you can build train from Lagos to Onitsha. At the same time, you can build train from Onitsha to Kano in 2 years' time. So if we have that, who democracy help? You go hear people they talk. So even if you support the president because you think he's doing good, at least let's not lie to ourselves that his actions are democratic. And that's something we should be worried about because trust me, democracy helps someone who, unless you have not lived under military rule, that's when you will not know that you want demo. I'm not saying this type of democracy we're practicing is the only type that we must do, but we need to have a say. We need to be the architect of our own destiny. Right now, we're not. Right now, we can't even choose the president we want. We won't be allowed to. We won't be allowed to, as we saw in 2023. The provisions and the guidelines of INEC were clear. They were in black and white, but they went against it with brazen, bold face. And they were backed up to the hilt all the way to the Supreme Court. So do we have a democracy? No, we don't. So hopefully we'll get there. But I think that at the end of the day, maybe my passing shot would be to say to whoever is listening to you right now that we do need to take our destiny in our hands, that we need to fight for electoral reform, not necessarily because that would be a solution in itself, but because
Speaking
it is a
about
critical component.
that, do you think the National Assembly will give us the electoral reform? Would they give it to
Uh,
us? This National Assembly, is
they
this something
will
they can do?
look.
Maybe the shadow
Two
government
things.
part to Tom is asking for. He's already being
Yes, yes,
taken to court by the
absolutely,
DSS. So
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
So the National Assembly will not give it to you by themselves of their own free will. They will not. Even if the National Assembly do it, The president may choose not to assent to it. So it is now up to us. Are we ready? We need to fight for that electoral reform as a starting point of the fight for our destiny. Then we now need to fight for the election itself and ensure that it is done properly. Because even when you get the reform, even if the reform says in black and white that things must be transmitted or whatever provisions you want to put in there, if INEC goes against it and the Supreme Court backs them, nothing will happen. So we as a people must be ready. We must understand that until we stand up and say no more, these guys are not going to stop. We have to be ready, whether it's protest, whatever your definition of stand up is, whether it's protest, whether it's sit out, whether it's sit at home, you must disrupt the system enough to get the attention of politicians, to force their hand to do what you want them to do. If we don't do that, we're all jokers and we're not ready.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Shego Shokriton. By the way, Mr. Shego Shokriton is one of the finest financial and economics analysts we have in Nigeria. You can see how brilliantly and exquisitely he speaks. So that one will let you know, saying the man will study well. And I appreciate you for obliging
Precious,
me.
take your time. Take your time.
I'm not going to take my time. I'm not going to take my time. Thank you so much. And I look forward to you starting up something on YouTube so that I can tell my people to follow you like your village.
I beg you. You know your people are, you and your people, you did well. I need you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you. I do hope that your blight just, again, sometime soon too. Thank you.
You know I'm always available now.
Sorry for sucking up your time, please. Don't worry. One day I will make you proud, like Papilo. One day I will make you proud.
Yes,
I will embarrass you with goodness.
We are eagerly expecting.
Thank you so much, sir. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.